By 166 BC, Matasyahu had died and Judah took his place as leader. By 165 BC, the Jewish revolt against the Seleucid monarchy was successful. The temple was liberated. After recovering Jerusalem and the Beit HaMikdash, Judah ordered the temple cleansed. New holy vessels were made and another altar was built to replace the desecrated one. To celebrate this event, Judah and his brothers instituted the Festival of Dedication. According to the Talmud, they searched for the olive oil to light the temple menorah, which Adonai had decreed was to burn continuously. To their dismay, the Maccabees discovered that almost all the ritual oil had been profaned, but for a single container still sealed by the high priest, enough to burn for only one day. They decided in faith to light the menorah anyway. Miraculously, it burned for 8 days. The time needed to press, process, and consecrate the sacred oil. That's why they say, Nes Gadol Hayasham, a great miracle happened there. So we see the Feast of Dedication as the time to celebrate God's deliverance by the hand of the Maccabees and the miracle of the oil. Now let's move ahead about 65 years. It's winter, during the time of the Feast of Dedication. Yeshua is walking through Solomon's portico in the temple. Yeshua is not just loitering in the temple, he's there for a purpose. Never one to miss a teaching opportunity, Yeshua uses Hannukah to reveal deeper truth to them. He knows that they are expecting another human Messiah, like the Maccabees, to deliver them from Roman occupation. He did not fault them for their understanding that the prophesied Messiah would set up an earthly kingdom ruling from Jerusalem. Rather, he was revealing to them that the promised Messiah would also be more than just a man, more than a Maccabee. He is Emmanuel. And he is Yeshua. And this time, the temple cleansing is a purifying of the heart. This Hannukah season, get the pigs off the altar and let him cleanse your temple. Then you can say, Nes Gadol Hayapo, a great miracle happened here.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shehechianu v'kiyamanu v'hidyanu lazman hazeh. Now, I want you to understand a few things. What we're going to do this morning, okay, is we're going to sort of use the story that was portrayed in this video, which are the actual events that we celebrate at Hannukah time. You need to know, though, the rest of the story. You need to know what happened leading up to these events. And you need to know what happened subsequent to these events that got us where we were in the first century, to the point where the Jewish people missed the Messiah. It's all tied in to this story of Hannukah. Now, when we look at the New Covenant reading for this morning, okay, we don't know exactly how long it was between, I'm sorry, not the portion, but when we look at John chapter 10, we don't know exactly how long it was between the time that Yeshua told the parable of the Good Shepherd, which is in the first part of John chapter 10. We don't know how long it was between the time that Yeshua told that parable and the time that we see him on Solomon's porch. But we do know that it was winter, that they were celebrating the Feast of Dedication, We don't know what day of the festival it is. Some people like to get into the nitty-gritty details. We don't know what day of the holiday it was. We don't know how many candles they lit the night before. Don't ask me. I don't know. We don't have that information. However, it was probably pretty soon after this parable of the Good Shepherd that we see him there in the porch. In fact, it may even have been later that same day, because the parable continues on the porch, on Solomon's porch, when he's asked, how long are you going to wait before you tell us, are you the Messiah? He continues this parable. He says, my sheep know my voice. So it's probably pretty close. And that becomes really important, because what he's talking about his divinity. He's talking about him being the Son of God. And that's something, we want to talk about dreams, that's something that the children of Israel had been dreaming about for a long time. Why? That's what we're going to talk about. Now, how many of you, when you were in school, liked history? You like history? Okay. You like, specifically, what about military history? You like military history? Okay. This story is, it's a history story. I never liked history when I was growing up. When I was a kid, I was the math and science kid. We divided it basically into two groups. There were the math and science guys and girls, and then there were the English and social studies kids. Okay? I was not the English social studies kind of kid. I was the math and science all the way. Okay? So this would have been very boring to me when I was growing up. However, I liked drama, I liked intrigue, I liked thrillers, and so if you think about this in that way, it changes things. Because this is a story of high intrigue and suspense. So I want you to put your drama hats on, if you will, and think about it in this way, okay? Let's go back to the Babylonian captivity, okay? The northern kingdom fell to Assyria in 722. Okay? Don't worry about the dates. I'm not going to test you. Dan, you need to worry about these dates. Because this is Old Testament history. These are dates that we are going to be tested on this coming Thursday. So, all right. 722, the northern kingdom falls to Assyria. Okay? In the late 500s, okay, Babylon is on the scene, and 597, they start deporting the people out of the southern kingdom. Okay, 586, the temple falls, gets completely destroyed, and the southern kingdom gets deported to Babylon. Okay, so they're both gone. However, several years later, they're allowed to return. Okay, there's an edict, and they go back to Jerusalem. And Cyrus, who was the Persian king, who had defeated Babylon, issues an order. Now, if you're into prophetic history, okay, and you like that book of Daniel, this becomes an important time, because in 538, Cyrus issues a decree to rebuild the walls. That starts a countdown. That starts the prophetic countdown to the Messiah, the 70 weeks of Daniel. Okay? So there's all kinds of stuff that's going on spiritually behind the scenes, prophetically, during this time. But 538, Cyrus issues the decree. Ezra and Nehemiah, they go back. There's the whole process about rebuilding the temple. They run into some trouble. There's some Jews there who don't want the temple rebuilt. So construction stops. They have to go back, and they have to fight this opposition. You know, a few years later, they come back, they complete it, and in 516, the temple gets rebuilt. Okay? Note this, 586 to 516, 70 years. 70 years. Okay? So from that point on, okay, the Persians are in charge. Okay? The Persians set up this governorship. Okay? Zerubbabel was a descendant of King David. He became the governor of Israel at that time, and under him, things progressed. The temple had gotten rebuilt, all that kind of stuff. He ends up disappearing, never to be seen again, which essentially removes the line of David from leadership in the land. During this time, it was about 100 years where things were really, really quiet in Israel. But things are going on behind the scenes, and the Greeks are starting to come to power. There was a guy, his name was, what was his name? Alexander, who thought that the Greek culture was the bomb, and wanted the entire world to know what that culture was and be part of it and get all the blessings that he was getting out of it too. And so his job that he self-appointed was to take the Greek culture and bring it to everybody, whether they wanted it or not. That process was called Hellenism. Okay? And Alexander, who became known as Alexander the Great, created this incredible empire. He was in power, in charge, from 332 to 323. Again, these are not dates you need to know, but just interesting to note. Okay? He had 4 generals that were in charge of all of his armies throughout his empire. Okay? Lysimachus, Cassander, Ptolemy, and Seleucus. Okay? When Alexander the Great dies at a very young age, he was only 32 to 33, depending on what dates you subscribe to, when he died, he had no children.